Thank you, Leon. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about blockchain. I think most of you have heard about blockchain. If not, you may have heard about Bitcoins, cryptos, so on. Now, what is that is what I'm trying to talk about first, introduce that, and then subsequently I'll take it through you to explain why it is becoming more important for construction per se. So my name is Srinath Perera. I'm the chair professor in built environment and construction management at Western Sydney University, and also the director for Center for Smart Modern Construction. So in the center, we have several industry collaborators who are contributing to the work of the center. Some of collaborators here are here in this audience as well. So I'm very happy to show that what we are doing as well. Interestingly, it's a long journey that we have come about, and we are now coming to the stage we have demonstrable products coming out from here. Okay, so what's this? First of all, in order to look at blockchain, we need to take a step back and see what is the state of digitalization in construction. Everybody knows that construction is one of the least digitalized sectors in the global construction. If you take, it's the second least digitalized sector worldwide. And what's happening is that it's been the case for a long time, more than 2 decades. This is research from 2006. E-Business Watch in the EU still find that at that time we were the lowest bottom ranked as well. So, but technology is coming up. You may have heard about fourth industrial revolution, meaning that in this time period, what is happening is there is integration of digital and physical spheres in technology. So, meaning there is significant changes that are going to happen. There will be intelligent buildings that can make their own decisions as we go on. So this is the kind of era we are going on. So what's happening in New South Wales? We've been asked to do we were involved in a research project where we looked at digitalization, the state of digitalization in New South Wales. This is a preview of data that is coming out of that research project, which will be, the final report will be launched in June this year in an industry launch, where we are going to talk about a digitalization strategy for New South Wales construction. So you can see when you look at the level of digitalization, construction sector is more than 50% are at the basic level of digitalization. Then some are at a little bit advanced level, 40% roughly, and smarter and more intelligent levels. There are very few companies in that when we look at this data. Now, we have to look at what's happening in terms of digital procurement. My topic today is to take you through digital procurement. What is digital procurement? In the 80s, in this particular slide, we have 80s and 90s and so on with a slash. The first part of the slash here indicates procurement in general, and the second part of the slash indicates basically construction procurement, right? Procurement in construction sector. So in the 80s, 90s, what we had was procurement happening through digital media, like diskettes. At the time, there were diskettes. Some of you may have used them. And then CDs and so on, there were digital procurement happening at that time. I can remember as a consultant in construction starting to float tenders on diskettes. Interesting time period. Then subsequently, we went on to internet-based procurement. And then subsequently, we went on to cloud-based procurement. So the software as a service companies, extranets, they were the talk of the day. We are currently using such systems. But next stage is where blockchain will come in. Next stage of procurement will be in the blockchain. Now I'm going to show you why it is the case by first talking about what blockchain will do, or what it does, and then subsequently show you some exemplars of how we can apply that in the construction sector. So blockchain is the technology, basically the underlying technology in cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin or those famously known about. The technology underlying is a distributed ledger technology, which is what we are trying to use in the construction sector. And I will explain why it is important. So looking at the various business models that were there, we can see that there were the traditional business model originally was basically to have it like a business, then trading with many customers. Blackwell's bookshops were there, they were selling books. And then Amazon thought, how can I not be physically limited, be limited by the physical store size? And that's where they went on to the internet, where there is unlimited space for them to advertise any amount of books. That's where the concept of Amazon started, and online trading, a classic example. Then we went on to this model of internet business, business-to-business operations in eBay type of things, consumer-to-business operations. And more recently, we've seen the trends with Uber. What Uber did was, they are trying to use the spare capacity in a particular service offering and use that and try to monetize that. And beyond that, what is going to happen is basically, we are saying, why do you want Uber to operate? We'll remove Uber from the picture. If the spare capacity, or if I have a space in my car, I find the person who wants to take a ride with me directly rather than going through Uber. Then that's where we are going to say blockchain is coming into the space, remove the middleman. Blockchain can remove the middleman. Now, banks do very much understand. I don't know how any bankers here, but they know very well that bankers are middlemen. So if we want to borrow money, we go to the bank, but there's a lot of people who have money who save that money in the bank, and we go to the bank and borrow. So we can't borrow it directly from the person because we don't trust each other. Because there's no trust between the parties, there's no direct interaction happening. So if we can build that trust, then there is possibility of direct interaction and cut the middleman off. Banks know very well that this is coming through, and that is why they are the biggest investors in blockchain. You may know, may not know, but they invest significantly on blockchain technology experiment, and they want to be in this space. They want to survive as businesses in the new era, what is happening. So let's look briefly about what is blockchain. I'll try to explain in a simpler way. Try to see. So in a traditional database, you store data in one single place, a database. Whenever a new item comes in, you add the record to the database, and you go on adding records into. And the database will have many attributes, areas explaining that database. But in a blockchain, and what the problem in that is, it's centrally located. And when centrally located, people who have access to it can modify it, change it. So there is no trust in that. You have to trust the person who has the access to the database to do any business on that. But in situations construction companies deal with, multiple companies, it's so fragmented, so many people are involved, so there's no opportunity to trust one party to hold all the pieces of data that is relevant to a construction project. So this is why if in blockchain, what happens is, instead of storing everything in one place, it stores every record in multiple places, many places, and it can go across the globe anywhere in so as you want to span it. So once it is stored in multiple places, the advantage is that one single person doesn't have control about it. They can't, if one place it's changed, everywhere else it is not changed. So therefore, we have consensus algorithms making it, if there is consensus only in everywhere, a place where the data is stored, data can be allowed to be changed. Again, data will never be changed in a blockchain. Blockchain doesn't allow data change. It will add a new piece of data upon top of the existing, going on adding. So every piece of transaction, every piece of dealing that happened is recorded in a blockchain. The beauty is that nobody can change it. And this is what we are going to come up with. So what happens more in a technology sense, you have the genesis block where the start of the blockchain happens, and blocks are added one by one, like shown in here. And when blocks are added into, blocks means block will contain multiple transactions in that, and one set is stored, then the second set is stored, and so on. It goes on adding blocks into the blockchain. So in this, we have to understand different terminology being used. I'll briefly explain what it means is, and you may come across these technical terms. Peer-to-peer network is basically, as I said, data is not stored in one single place. It is stored in multiple computers in multiple locations. Nobody will know where exactly 100% everything is stored at any given point. Well, there are ways of doing things, and I'm not going to go into the very detail of it, but that's in general. So there is hashing algorithms, which basically means that that's the connection between one block to the other. So there are hashing algorithms that devise the connection between blocks. Then how do we access data is, you have public key cryptography defined. So cryptographically defined data is used to access, and therefore it is extremely secure, very difficult to break that. So these digital keys are used to access data. Now, when data is stored, as I said earlier, once data is stored in multiple places, if one place data is changed, a piece of data is changed, everywhere else, imagine this data is stored, the same piece of data is stored in all the tables here. In this table, it changes, then every other place it is not changed. So unless everybody agrees that, or the majority agrees that the change is valid, it will not be accepted. And that is where the consensus algorithms come to play. They play that role to make it so that there is democracy in this. So blockchain brings in what we call digital democracy into play. And there are many consensus algorithms that are there, proof of work, proof of stake, so on. I'm not going to go into detail, but for completion's sake, I'm putting this. All this, if you want to read it, there is a freely available short article on academia.edu. And if you type the title of my presentation, you will be able to access it freely, and you can read a little bit more about it. And if you want to know very much more about it, there are heaps of publications that I will show that We have published, you can read, and lots of other people have as well. So in a blockchain-based system, there is a network architecture at the lowest level. The network layer is there. That's where the blockchain network is there. Then the consensus mechanism is another mechanism which who should provide consensus in that. And then the domain data model layer is there, and an execution layer, how to execute that. And that's where the smart contracts come in, which I will talk about in a minute. And then the application layer where the interface is. So I'm going to show you later on a real blockchain system, a small video clip of it, which we have done. So public, and there are different types of blockchains, public blockchains. You can have a blockchain privately as well, with a defined group of people. You can have consortium blockchains, so a group of people can get together and join into a blockchain network. That is also possible. These are various ways in blockchain can be implemented. This is a bit complicated thing where we are showing all the advantages, disadvantages of blockchain, drivers and barriers for blockchain, and basically the features, how they connect. But I simplified that in here. So it is decentralized because data is stored in many locations, not in one place. It is immutable. That means data cannot ever be changed. You can't change data in the blockchain. It is set in stone. Then basically transparency is there because anybody can view the data and look at. Of course, you can put limitations to that and control it. Then it is secure. It is very secure. It's very difficult to crack a blockchain network. Not impossible. Anything is not impossible in the world. Anything can be done. But it is very difficult to corrupt a blockchain network, so it's secure. It's auditable because a digital trail is there, trail of evidence is there, so you can audit what happened in the transactions from A to Z. And more so, it builds in trust, and that is the most important element. In business transactions, the most important thing is trust. And if trust is there, business can do business activity, and that's what this will bring about. So the applications in blockchain are using smart contracts. You may have heard about what is smart contracts, but about the term, but it is simply autonomously executable pieces of code. So you encode several set of rules into a piece of code, and that is basically a smart contract. So certain parameters are there. You can check all the parameters. If the parameters meet, then something should happen. If the parameters doesn't meet, something else will happen. So that's the kind of thing that happens in a smart contract in simple language. These are some of the applications, blockchain applications. None of it is in construction. We haven't found any useful construction-related blockchain applications in our research. It's very difficult to find anything. A lot of people talk about it. A lot of people say that they are implementing, but they haven't got anything really working in the construction sector, built environment sector. Most of it is ideas and it's not any working things. We haven't come across, maybe there is, but it's very difficult to find real examples. So Arup predicted, this is Arup's prediction about how blockchain will mature over time. According to that, by so we are in 21, we should be in the commercialization, passing the commercialization phase of blockchain. We are not nowhere near. We are about 3-4 years behind this prediction. Unfortunately, construction is so slow to move in digital space, and therefore we are not in there yet. And these are some key statements I thought would be very interesting to understand why blockchain is so important. Now, as I promised, this is what we created. A lot of people say that when we say that we do research in blockchain, they said we can't understand what it is. For any person, blockchain wouldn't look at it, if you look at it, it won't look any different to any other software you would have used. So it's a simple interface, a web interface, and here's a real software. If you use this web link, you can access that. And you can find a real working prototype system here. What I will do is I will briefly explain the concept behind that prototype and show a brief video of it. So it is basically for the property sector. All of you have bought, most of you have bought a house or rented the house, and we use agents to do that. And this is about that. Here's the buyer, here's seller of houses or property, and then we have to consult various people. We employ a solicitor, we have to use a bank, and then the solicitors will do a title search, various kinds of searches. And in order for them to do the searches, they employ various kinds of companies who does these searches and provide a report to the solicitor. And we pay for all of that. And then all that data gets stored in the land registry. All this can go into a blockchain, and that's what we are saying. And if you can do that, we can eliminate all these middlemen out from the picture. We don't need any of that. That means your property buying and selling will be dead cheap, than not like now. You will save significant amount of money that you are spending right now. So the system has this kind of an architecture, basically a user interface, and then the blockchain interface, the ledger, and then the network layer, and then it can connect to multiple organizations. So that's the software we are going to show.
As a buyer of property, have you endured long waiting times and costly intermediaries to perform title searches? Do you trust the authenticity of your land title 100%? LandBlocks, a state-of-the-art land and property management system powered by blockchain technology, will provide you with up-to-date information and ensure secure, efficient, trustworthy, and transparent property transactions with minimum human intervention. LandBlocks has two categories of users. First, authorized staff of the Land Registry Department can execute administrative tasks related to land registration, such as searching for land titles, land ownership details, and transaction history of land titles. Registration of new land and transfer of land titles can be performed by the staff on behalf of landowners. The second category of users, members of the general public, can perform property transactions after verifying their identity with the Land Registry Department. Prospective sellers can advertise their property on the market, and prospective buyers can search for property on sale. Users can also view the transaction history of the property they own. All data is retrieved from the Land Registry blockchain in real time. All clearance information related to the property on sale, such as council and water rates, is also available. This information, retrieved through smart contracts connected to the relevant authorities. Property transactions will be paid for by exchanging a fiat collateralized stable cryptocurrency. Buyers and sellers can view the status of transactions, and all valid transactions will be updated in the Land Registry blockchain. The Center for Smart Modern Construction is in the forefront of blockchain research in the built environment. For more information on LandBlocks and our other research projects, please visit the links in the video description.
Okay, so I unfortunately don't have time to demo the software as such, but I'll give a brief indications of where we are using blockchain in our research activities. So this is a blockchain network designing. We are designing a blockchain network for construction supply chains. We want to capture the entire construction supply chain into a blockchain. What's the advantage? Advantage is that we can eliminate the time taken for payment. At the moment, down the supply chain, you may have to wait for 6 months to get your payment. If we can instantaneously make the payments and make sure goods are received, are of good quality, and assurance is there, we can save that significant amount of money that is locked up in such transactions. And it often goes to banks because you have to borrow money. This is another example where we are using it, a blockchain, to make construction payments, capture payments made to construction companies, subcontractors to contractors to subcontractors to everybody in there, and then for certification and assurance of work. This is another research project which is looking at how we can get the blockchain data into a BIM model. So this research project integrates BIM and blockchain. And then the next one basically is looking at how we can use embodied carbon estimating. I've been told there's not much time left, so I'm flying through there. Basically, it is embodied carbon estimating happening in the supply chain, and we can use that to create very accurate embodied carbon estimates. At the moment, methods are not accurate. And then this is a blockchain network that we are designing for waste trading activities. These are some examples I've put across. You can read a lot of information in some of these publications that we have made. We have 7 high-quality publications in blockchain in here, and you can pick up any of those, and a total of 17 publications, peer-reviewed publications we can have a look at and get more details. A free one is basically the one on the right-hand side, which you can download for free. That's it. Thank you very much, and I hope you understood it.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have a question for Professor Perera? Just a second.
Thanks very much for that. Just a quick one regarding the blockchain around land acquisitions. Have you had some involvement with the government around that initiative and got any support about applying that
Sorry, I didn't follow.
in the land acquisitions?
Oh, okay, yes, yeah.
And whether or not you've had any involvement or collaboration with the government or the legislators around developing that platform or capability?
No, we didn't have any collaboration. We have the capacity to do that. We want to use this as a demonstrator. We can put the entire land registry on blockchain, simply, and that will save enormous amount and increase accuracy and speed of transaction significantly.
Just one more in the front there, just bear with me.
Hi, it's Bert from EY. Thank you, Professor. Now, if you think of a technology, it goes through stages of development, and you think of the internet, 56K modem, and sort of a little bit quicker, and now we're into broadband. Where do you think blockchain is at in reference to maturity as a technology? I mean, the Bitcoin is terrible. It uses more energy than some small countries. So that's an early version of blockchain. Where is it at, and where do you think it's going in terms of development?
As a technology, blockchain is quite mature. So it is ready for commercialization and ripe for that. But commercial applications, very limited and very early stages in that. There's a long way to go to make it real commercial applications. At the moment, banks are using it for aid distribution purposes. Combank and various banks are using that, and there are agriculture sector applications. CSIRO Data 61 have successfully implemented in the meat production sector in Australia for tracking where the meat came from to the consumer. and then it will give authentication of the product itself. So we can use it for construction. This is what I'm wanting to say to everyone. Enormous applicability in construction.
Okay, final question.
Thanks. Daniel from DB and Burcon. Just thinking about the use of a blockchain to drive construction contracts, what building blocks do you need in place before you can implement smart contracts for construction?
Important thing is we need a blockchain to be successful. We need to have all the players in subscribing to it and using it. That's number one. Then we need to then encode all the legal terms and transactions into smart contracts. Convert the procedures into digital contracts. That's a major task to be done in making sure that's going on correctly. Yeah.
Do you see the as-built models being a digital asset that could be traded or transacted later?
Yes, there will be, and actually, what I can say is New South Wales government just had a bid on assurance scheme for the construction sector, and very soon the awardees will be notified, and I can't talk about it much as such, but what is going to happen is it will come up with a blockchain-based trackable system to increase the level of assurance that is given for construction buildings. So that insurance companies, for example, can make sure that the building produced is of acceptable standard and insurance premiums can be managed, therefore.
All right, please join me in thanking Srinath for his insightful session. And it's the last session